This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
The time is 6:15. Here is the news edited by Dilini Gunawardana, read by Victor Raj. Here are the headlines of the local news. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardana says that elections will not be postponed under any circumstances. State Minister Sihan Semasinghe says that attempts to destabilize the debt restructuring process have failed. Plans are underway to recruit over 1,000 lecturers to the state universities. The Supreme Court determines that the Inland Revenue Amendment Bill can be passed by a simple majority of the legislature. Borella Ayurveda Hospital will be raised into a national Ayurveda hospital. Foreign news. President Vladimir Putin says the Ukraine counteroffensive has failed again. Sports news, tennis. US Open 2023 results. Alexander Zverev beats Jannik Sinner. Local news in detail. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardana says that elections to be held will not be postponed under any circumstances. All the elections will take place on time. He further added that President Ranil Wickremesinghe instructed the cabinet to complete the debt restructuring program by the end of October. Although the debt restructuring process is to be completed by now, the implementation of the program in accordance with the time frame as per the agreements has been delayed due to narrow objectives of certain people. The minister stated that the restructuring of foreign debts is a big challenge at the national level. Domestic debt restructuring has now been completed. He further mentioned that it is intended to finish this process expeditiously by discussing with the Central Bank and the Ministry of Finance. State Minister Sihan Semasinghe says that the attempts to destabilize the debt restructuring process through delaying the local debt optimization made by some political forces has failed. They took legal actions regarding the Gazette notification on the Inland Revenue Bill. However, the court has determined that the Inland Revenue Amendment Bill can be passed by a simple majority of the legislature. Taking to Twitter, the state minister said that this decision will establish the credibility on the economic stability of the island, both in the local and global context. Education Minister Sushil Premchand said today in Parliament that the aim is to complete the subject streams of all grades by the end of 2024. Actions are also being taken to conduct term exams accordingly. 2023 Advanced Level Examination is scheduled to be held on November 27th. Procedures are underway to recruit 1,050 university lecturers to 17 state universities. 50% of the existing vacancies in the academic staffs of the universities are filled under here. Allocations will be made in this year's budget to fill the remaining vacancies. The minister also said that the necessary facilities will be provided to the medical students of the Sabargama University as soon as possible. The minister further added that his aim is to replace the exam-centric education system with a merit-based education system. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Continuing with more local news, the Ayurveda Amendment Bill was debated in Parliament today. State Minister Sisira Jayakode said that the Borella Ayurveda Hospital will be raised into a national Ayurveda hospital soon. MP Ajit Mala Peruma said that local Ayurveda system should be included in the national health policy of the country. MP Dr. Harini Amarasura said that she agrees with the efforts made through the Act to raise the quality of Ayurveda. She said that if there are any problems with the bill, it should be discussed with the relevant parties. State Minister Mr. Vijit Berugoda said that efforts should be made to popularize the Ayurvedic treatment system throughout the country, and this amendment should be viewed positively. He emphasized that no political gain should be expected from this. Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa pointed out that the tax policy of the government has resulted in a brain drain. He further said that the time duration between the advanced level examination for the years 2022 and 2023 is insufficient. The digitalization of the United National Party is scheduled to be held tomorrow at the party headquarters in line with the 77th anniversary of the United National Party. The 77th Congress of the party is scheduled to be held tomorrow, and a religious ceremony has been planned for it at the party headquarters, Sirikota. Garlands will be placed on the statues of the late party leaders. The basic steps of the digitalizing the party will be started as well. Once this is completed, the party members will have the opportunity to connect with the party via online. Many of the senior party members will take part in the event. That ends local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Speaker Mahinda Abeyewardene announced that the Supreme Court determination on the Inland Revenue Amendment Bill during today's Parliament session is a timely one. Accordingly, the Court has determined that the Inland Revenue Amendment Bill can be passed by a simple majority of the legislature. He added that the Supreme Court has held that neither the bill which was challenged in the court nor any of its provisions is inconsistent with the Article 12 of the provisions of the Constitution. That ends main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Moving on to Watchlight, the Department of Meteorology announced that the sun will continue moving directly over several parts of the island tomorrow too. Earlier, the Met Department highlighted that the sun is going to be directly over the latitudes of Sri Lanka from August 28th to September 7th this year. Accordingly, the nearest town of Sri Lanka over which the sun is overhead tomorrow are Maggona, Baduraliya, Godakavela, Kitulkote and Meghaveraliya about 9:12 noon. That came to you on Watchlight.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of
Say no more to moving and paying rent. Get a home loan from Commercial Bank at the lowest interest rate and get a home of your own.
Which Bhatta are you in now?
In Javatta, in my own house.
World News headlines first. President Putin says Ukraine counteroffensive has failed again. Press freedom concerns as India editor's body is charged over Manipur report. China's Great Wall is damaged by the workers. World News in detail. Russian President Vladimir Putin has again called Ukraine's counteroffensive against Russian forces a failure as Kyiv's Minister of Defense reported further gains on the front lines around Bakhmut city in the eastern Donetsk region. Speaking at a news conference with the Turkish president in the Black Sea resort of the Sochi on Monday, Putin denied reports of recent battlefield gains by Ukraine and said Kyiv's forces had not stalled in their advance but had failed. Police in India's Manipur state have filed 2 cases against members of the Editors Guild of India, EGI, accusing them of trying to incite more unrest in the Manipur state. The cases filed came a day after the country's top editors' body issued a report condemning the local media's one-sided reporting of the months-long violence in Manipur. The FIR's accused the EGI office bearers of promoting enmity between different groups, defamation and criminal conspiracy among other charges under the Indian Penal Code. A part of China's Great Wall has been severely damaged by construction workers in central Shaanxi province, who used an excavator to dig through a tunnel. Police say 2 people were suspected of trying to create a shortcut for their construction work. The police say they wanted to reduce the distance they had to travel. It also stressed that the 2 have accused for causing irreversible damage to the integrity of the Ming Great Wall and the safety of the cultural relics. The suspects have been detained and the case is under further investigation. To wrap up the world news, let's take a look at the headlines once again. President Putin says Ukraine counteroffensive has failed again. Press Freedom Conference as India editors' body is charged over Manipur report. China's Great Wall is damaged by the workers. That ends world news.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
This message is for all the kids between the ages of 4 and 16 who love to draw. Commercial Bank's Arunalu Sittam is back once again. This time, the competition is also open to Sri Lankan kids currently living abroad. First, second and third place prizes will be awarded along with special merit and merit certificates. For more information, visit the Commercial Bank website. We have so many prizes to be won.
Development News is brought to you by
Job opportunities for well-experienced housemaids and home cooks in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait for ages 40 to 58 years. Salary 125,000 rupees. Contact 037 7500 500.
Nibli appointed United Nations Resident Coordinator in Sri Lanka, Mark Henry Frenchie, has said that the UN expects to provide over $300 million to Sri Lanka during the next 5 years for the development programs. The UN Resident Coordinator has mentioned this when he met with the Speaker of the Parliament, Mahinda Abebadana, in Parliamentary Complex recently. That ends Development News.
Job opportunities for women from Deshakti Lanka in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait and Oman. Housemaids and home cooks in Saudi Arabia, ages 40 to 58 years. Arabic speaking and well experienced home cooks. Salary 125,000 rupees. Interviews are now on with foreign agents. You can travel overseas free of charge now. Branches Colombo, Kurunegala, Anuradhapura and Matara. Contact number 0377 500 500. Deshakti Lanka Foreign Employment Agency.
Moving on to sports news, Germany's Alexander Zverev came through the longest match of this year's US Open to beat 6th seed Jannik Sinner and reach the quarterfinals. Zverev seeded 12th, clinched a 6-4, 3-6, 6-2, 4-6, 6-4 win in New York and plays top seed Carlos Alcaraz next. The 2020 runner-up missed last year's hard-court Grand Slam event because of the serious ankle injury. Addressing the media, he said, "This is one of the best moments of his career." That ends sports news.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු ගීන හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
A special insurance scheme named Sri Lanka Insurance Jeevana Shakti has been introduced for the welfare of the plantation sector workers. Plantation, Human Resource Development Fund and Ministry of Water Supply, Plantation Infrastructure Development has launched this in collaboration with the Sri Lanka Insurance. People between 18 to 70 years of age can join this. That ends Business News.
Business News, Sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු ගින හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Moving on to economic news, the Minister of Justice, Prison Affairs and Constitutional Reforms, President's Counsel Dr. Vijaydas Rajapaksa says work on recovering the money deposited in foreign countries by individuals who fraudulently acquired assets in the next few days, since the United States Office on Drugs and Crime has agreed to provide the necessary support for the task. He made this disclosure during a discussion held with the South Asian Regional Representative of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime at the Ministry of Justice yesterday. That ends economic news.
Weather report.
Showers or thunder showers will occur at times in the western, sub-Regamba, southern, central and northwestern provinces. Fairly heavy showers above 50 mm are likely at some places in the western and sub-Regamba provinces and in the Gaul, Mathura and Nuwara districts. A few showers are likely in the Jaffna, Mena and Anuradhapura district. Fairly strong winds, about 40 to 45 km per hour, can be expected at times in western slopes of the central hills, western, southern, northwestern, northern and north-central provinces. That ends with the report. To wrap up the evening news on Radio Sri Lanka, let's take a look at the headlines once again. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena says that elections will not be postponed under any circumstances. State Minister Syahan Semasinga says that attempts to destabilize the debt restructuring process have failed. Plans are underway to recruit over 1,000 lecturers to the state universities. The Supreme Court determines that the Inland Revenue Amendment Bill can be passed by a simple majority of the legislature. Borella Ayurveda Hospital will be raised into a national Ayurveda hospital. Foreign news, President Vladimir Putin says that Ukraine counteroffensive has failed again. Sports news, tennis, US Open 2023 results. Alexander Zverev beats Jannik Sinner. With that, we wrap up the evening news on Radio Sri Lanka.